Good morning and welcome back to Daybreak. It's now a little after almost 6:45 in the morning, this 22nd day of June 2022. 42 days to the general election, counting down to August 9th. What is happening with that? Is the IEBC prepared? There's a new petition that has just been filed in court with respect to an administrative directive from the IEBC chair, plus much more, including the voter register. Now we have what the numbers look like and the demographics of that as well. Let's get into our discussion this morning, and we invite you as well to share your views with us. The hashtag is Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara. You can also send us a text message. The number is 22422. My guest this morning, Kawive Wambua, who's Executive Director at Inuka Trust, Murigi Kamande, a lawyer. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And also joining us via Zoom is Bobby Mkangi, a lawyer as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today. Let me start with you, Murigi. There's now a petition challenging the IEBC's decision to not have a manual register and to have only the electronic voter identification. So here's another hurdle, again, that IEBC has to deal with in the courts just 42 days to the election.
Oh, yeah. These cases are becoming too many for IEBC, and I think it's just a tip of the iceberg. It's a reflection of how how woke the society is in terms of the preparedness for the elections, where nobody wants to leave anything at chance. So anything that might arise as a challenge during and after the period of the election, people have decided now to take the matter to court for purposes of settlement. It's going to be an interesting challenge, basically because we know in 2017, one of the issues was about the register, which register was supposed to be used. Was it the electronic register or the manual register? And now the question now that arises is there a need for a manual register, that complementary register, and what purpose does it serve? And other issues that will also arise is what happens if there's a discrepancy between what is contained in the electronic register and what is contained in the manual register. Because issues that arose in 2017 were that there were people who are not in the electronic register, but they miraculously found themselves in the manual register. So I think these are issues. I think IEBC prepared petition as well before. It's something that Chebukati has been talking about for quite a while, and I think the pleadings that are now before court will help us settle this matter.
Yeah, and you're right. It's all about what happened previously in 2013, 2017, and failure of some kits to correctly identify voters. I guess the petition is raising issues such as what happens in case there's a mass failure of the KEEMS kits, what happens to other voters whose fingerprints or might be the biometrics might be interfered with. Well, it's 42 days to go to the election. Who knows what could happen in the midst of that. So obviously the ghosts of 2013 and 17 coming back, and just maybe trying to make sure that everything is settled, Kawive.
And the IEBC has got a responsibility to ensure that everybody votes. Everybody who is eligible, who is registered, votes. Now, when they pronounce, because they wrote to a petition, questions asked by Azimio, whether they will be using the manual register. And indeed, in the review of the elections of 2007 and in the 2017 presidential elections, there was the question of the manual register being misused. And therefore, the IEBC is reacting to that. It's saying that the court has given ruling on 2 occasions that really the manual register can be misused. Fine. So if you're using the electronic register, what we need to know as citizens is that, one, the experience of 2017, where like 11,000 KEEMS kits failed. They could not work. They didn't have battery or they didn't have coverage. That will not be repeated. What has been done to ensure that happens? We are not saying that the IEBC is wrong to say they'll do the electronic register, but the point is, what if they fail? Are we saying 11 KIEMS kits fail, how many people will not be identified, how many people will not vote. And also that the regulations of IEBC, regulation number 69, provides for a situation when why the manual register could be used. Mm-hmm. Maybe the question, are these include when they can't get the biometrics, when for some reason the KIEMS kit is not functioning and all that. Yeah. It allows. It's a regulation which has already been made by IEBC, and it is basically a regulation of elections. So by saying they abandon all that process and go to electronics, it's like they are saying, if you are not then on the electronic, if you cannot be identified, you will not vote. And mark you, they are, according to their own records, the evaluation by KPMG, 1,111 polling stations that do not have 4G network. Yeah. So basically you are saying in some polling stations, people will not vote. You know, how many days to the elections? And there's no assurance?
Yeah, and it's interesting because our voters are identified electronically, and then the result is transmitted electronically. Exactly. The voting is what happens manually, and I guess it's the transmission of results that will require 3G, 4G connection for the same. And I guess IEBC's argument has been that the KIEMS kit does not necessarily need that network, but then there have been cases, like you said, of even user operational problems by the polling clerks who will be at the polling station. Bobby, how does IEBC now start to deal with litigation? Perhaps some would say so late in the day. We know in 2017 they had to deal with quite a few legal hurdles in the run-up to that. I believe even with respect to procurement issues alone, the cases were close to 50, and now they have another one. So how do they navigate this with 42 days to go?
Well, I think, as my co-panelist Murigi said earlier, IEBC is set, and as you mentioned historically, that this sort of litigation is traditional during the run-up to elections. So I think IEBC should be prepared to be able to chew and cross the road at the same time, that it should keep its eye on the ball in terms of ensuring that the logistical, administrative, and also philosophical approach to the elections, and especially on August 9th, takes off optimally. And so I think it can be able to do this, but ensure that its legal team is ready for such litigation. And I suspect this will not be the end of it. We are going to see many more. And we also, to some extent, expect to see even the primary of it all, a presidential elections petition. So I think IEBC, going by the tradition, by the history of how elections are run in this country, should be well endowed and ready to deal with such litigation. Again, sympathizing with what Murigi said, I think this litigation is also important. I don't think it's just for a matter of nuisance or putting IEBC or getting it distracted, but through this litigation, Kenyans are asking very pertinent and important questions about the preparations for elections. For example, this issue of the KIEMS kit or use of the KIEMS kit to identify voters. I think what Kenyans are saying through this petition is, or requesting IEBC, is to clearly assure Kenyans, almost 110%, that the use of these gadgets and electronic facilities will not fail. The call for the alternative or a backup plan, and that is the use of the manual register, I think comes about because IEBC has not clearly communicated that if it goes electronic, what is the alternative? What plan B do they have for any voter, for any polling station, for any eventuality where these gadgets fail, because, again, historically, we have seen them fail. And that is a question that Kenyans are asking IEBC. I believe that if Chairman Wafula Chebukati and his team had by now come out and told Kenyans that, the Waswahili say, maji ukiagulia nguo, charity uyaoge, that we as IEBC are keen to go the electronic way in identifying voters. And yes, we know that this is technology, these are gadgets that may fail. We've seen this happen in 2017, but we've taken these extra measures to ensure that where such gadgets fail, where a Kenyan who is exercising his or her political rights appears at the polling station and his information or her information fails to appear through those gadgets, we have this extra measure, we have this alternative measure to ensure that that Kenyan will not be denied his or her political rights. I think that is what this particular suit is pushing IEBC to categorically declare and assure Kenyans that on August 9, 2022, if it does go as it has proposed to use these kits, that no Kenyan will be failed.
Yeah, and you raise an important point about the issue of trust and reassuring Kenyans and voters, the 22 million plus of them who've registered to vote, about the integrity of the process and that it'll happen at that rate. Kawive, has IEBC done enough to assure voters, and should they be doing more? Because, Bobby raises an interesting point, taking voters through, okay, if we've decided to use the electronic register alone, these are sort of the measures we've put in place. IEBC is no doubt, starting from behind when it comes to trust in terms of how they conduct the elections, considering the events of 2017.
On 3rd June, this month, IEBC conducted a dry run of
simulation.
How the elections will be. And clearly, it was a failure, it was a flop. And the biggest problem is not that it failed. The biggest problem is that IEBC could not even tell us what happened. There was no clear communication of, this is the challenge that we've gotten, this is what we are going to do, and therefore we will be able to meet the challenge or deal with the challenge that we have realized. And they went quiet. That does not inspire confidence at all. And basically that's what we are saying, that if there has been a failure on the simulation, recent 3 weeks ago, now how do you tell us that it will be okay? What will you do to manage these failures? And what in my opinion, the petition seems to say is IEBC has demonstrated that their system, their electronic or digital system, has got certain shortcomings. Mm-hmm. How do we deal with the shortcomings? How sure am I that if I'm a farmer and my thumb or fingerprints have been worn by the soil, that I'll vote? Because that is the reality. Most people will not.
And that is a question that a voter would like to hear and understand.
Yeah. And IEBC has the advantage of having regulations that allow it to do it. So the KIMS kit, the electronic voting, and I mean the electronic system of identifying voters and of transmitting results is all very good. Fine, that is the direction that we want to go, but we want a foolproof system. Because the question of disenfranchisement of voters who are not able to make their decisions on the vote will become a big one. And then the question of transmission of results as well is also a big issue. So, and we don't have confidence. IEBC has not built our confidence as citizens. That's, don't worry, we've got you. We've got your back. We are ready.
Yeah. So, Murigi, how does IEBC then build that confidence? I know they've been tied up with quite a few things. And to be fair, in the recent past, we've focused on the politicians and the building of coalitions and who's in which formation. And now that is, sort of largely done. Then there was the clearance process, which we'll talk about, a little bit later. And they were dealing with the disputes arising from that. And now, really, it's it's all eyes on IEBC. So how can they continue to build that confidence that Kawiva is talking about? Should we be seeing daily updates from them? Should we, you know, it's a little over a month yes. and 12 days.
Yeah, so those 42 days. Now, historically, IEBC has always been at the center of all the elections. Be it the controversy, whatever it is that arises from those elections, IEBC being the referee is always at the core of it. Right now, what the problem we have is we lack information and we lack that communication from IEBC. One of the most important things from any public institution is regular updates to the public. Appraise people on what is happening, how are we dealing with various challenges, and responding to queries as they arise. Unfortunately, what we've had is in the past two let's say 1 month, the first thing we had was an update from Chebukati about the audit being carried out by KPMG. Issues were raised about dead voters, other people not appearing on the registers, and then they postponed the meeting where they were to update us, only for them to issue a statement later on giving us those figures. I think it is not just enough to do that. It is enough to update Kenyans regularly. And when such issues arise, such issues do not arise because people do not have so much trust in IEBC, that is true, but because at times people are not even in the know. One of the things that I've seen being challenged here is about the aspect of the complementarity and the backup systems that they are there. But in a press release, I think Majan, the IEBC CEO, was responding and saying that they have 4 backup of the KIMS kit at every polling station. That is information that has not been out in the public for people to know. So we cannot speculate. IEBC should not allow us to speculate. They know the issues that have arisen. 2013, 2017. The election petitions were the best lessons that they can ever learn. And if they learn from there, those are the issues that they need to address. It's the same thing with the dry run that was conducted on that. You could see the confusion that was at Bomas. Every party, none of the parties that was represented there, or even the civil society organization that were represented there, could even have any positive remark for the IEBC or even the dry run. So I believe they need to do that so often. We need to hear more from IEBC. Regular updates are okay. Let them even have Q&A sessions for people to ask those pertinent questions. It is only where there is no more, what do you call it? There's people, if people no longer have trust in IEBC, it is the point at which now they're supposed to go. Right. They're supposed to go to court. But some of these issues are issues that can be raised and answered by IEBC.
Yeah, and it's about filling the void, Kawiva, isn't it?
But you know, the other thing that when we say of building confidence and IEBC leaves everybody aghast is there was a Supreme Court ruling on petition number 1 of 2017. That Supreme Court ruling was that IEBC needed to fix certain things about the register and about connectivity. They have not done anything from 2017 until now. So now it looks like an emergency. And you know, when IEBC said that, you know, we won't use the manual voters register, it looked like a knee-jerk reaction instead of using 5 years between elections to fix the systems. Why has not happened? Because then we'll get into a situation where KIMS kits fail on 9th of August, and IEBC will make another knee-jerk reaction to the situation because voters would want to vote. So I think it's also important that we tell IEBC that they have had time. They have had resources. It's only this year that they started saying they don't have resources. But for 5 years, they've been quiet, and they have not been actioning on that particular petition, which was given in 2017 by the Supreme Court. So it's only important that we know that IEBC for 4 years had been sleeping on the job, and now they are waking up to find that there are too many things happening at the same time. The Communication Authority of Kenya is responsible for network coverage. There were failures in 2017. Up to today, they have no network coverage. and IEBC will tell you it's the CAK that has not given us network coverage. I mean, honestly.
But network coverage has grown significantly since 2017.
Yes, it has.
3G, the rollout of 4G, including 5G as well. So there's been, you know, sort of...
There are even balloons launched by the president.
Yes, we all know how that went. That's a story for another day. Gentlemen, Kawive Wambua Murigi, Kamande, and Bobby Mkangi joining me here. We're talking about IEBC's preparations for the election that is now 42 days away. When we come back, because I want us to take a short break here on Daybreak, when we come back, we'll talk about the voter numbers, 22 million of them. How many male, how many female, how many youth? And does it matter? That and more when we come back.